Well, let's now talk about the economy. The scarcity of naira is raising concerns among many. But could it be a blessing in disguise? I mean, for those who are not willing to share in order to save for the new year? Or could it just be a season cash crunch for those who are ready for the razzmatazz of the season? But in all of this, the Central Bank of Nigeria is not keeping quiet on this matter. It has warned deposit money banks and point-of-sales operators over their ignoble roles and collusion in making the naira appear scarce and unavailable for seamless business transactions in the country. The Apex Bank said it is currently investigating the roles of the banks and their POS collaborators and would sanction anyone found wanting. In a press statement issued by the Director Corporate Communications of the CBN, Sidi Ali Hakama, the Apex Bank enjoined members of the public to use alternative payment channels, as well as report any case of unauthorized activities, such as capping and hoarding of cash by banks or POS agents. Well, let's now bring in CEO Economic Associate Dr. Ayo Teriba, who joins us on the program for more on this. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Teriba. Well, it's 3 days to Christmas. Let's begin with what your experience has been with cash. Have you been able to make withdrawals, or are you on strictly cashless mode?
Well, good evening. And well, it's a pleasure to be here. And a bit worried that we are back to this point again, where we are discussing inadequate availability of cash, of naira notes. It's not a pleasant reminder of what the country went through this time last year and at the beginning of this year. 2023, ironically, is the 50th anniversary of naira notes and coins that were originally introduced in January 1973. So we should actually be celebrating the naira, commemorating, issuing commemorative, denominations to, but here we are. The currency notes are taking the governors, some governors and the president to the Supreme Court. The central bank dragged along, and it took the Supreme Court's intervention to stop the currency, the infamous currency redesign program. And the Supreme Court had extended the lives of the existing naira notes until now, until December. And here we are, a few days, less than 10 days to the end of December. The CBN has since been to the Supreme Court to ask that the extension not terminate on December 31, that it be extended indefinitely, admitting their own inability to print enough of the redesigned notes. So, and that's the crux of the matter. That the Central Bank of Nigeria has put more notes in circulation than it could print when they are withdrawn and they need to be replaced, which will inevitably happen. Currency notes don't circulate forever, particularly the low denomination currency notes that we put in circulation. The highest denomination note is $1, and that denomination is required for almost every retail transaction imaginable.
But Dr. Teriba,
and so they are short-lived. And so you need to print more to replace them. Yes.
Okay, I get your point, Dr. Teriba, but as it is, the CBN does believe that there is some level of collusion between deposit money banks and POS operators, and that's the reason for the scarcity. Do you agree with them?
It is a fact, which they have admitted at the Supreme Court, that they have not been able to print enough notes. So why are you blaming banks or blaming POS? There is not enough. There is not enough to go around. So you won't find people get to ATM There will be no cash in ATM. So let's the CBN not pass the buck. You have a currency operations department that should manage currency notes and is not living up, to the necessary standards in currency management. You have more than 10 billion pieces of Naira notes circulating. The CBN's capacity to print is not up to 500 million pieces a year. So you have more Naira notes in circulation than the CBN has the capacity to print. Remember, you buy paper and ink from the same market from which the American government and the British government buy paper and ink. To change $100 notes, you get one note of $100 bill, and you need at least 1,000 Naira notes or 1,100 Naira notes in exchange for one piece. And it will cost us money to print it. So let's not try and give excuses. There is not enough currency notes to go around. That is the bitter truth.
All right, and then
you cannot print. You cannot print enough of these small denomination notes. The last time the reform was undertaken was under the Obasanjo regime. The highest note then was 50 Naira.
But why is it difficult, Dr. Teriba? Why is it difficult to print enough to go around?
No country in the world will be able to print multiples of $1 currency as notes. There's most sensible countries in the world, that's not a note, that's a coin. The minimum coin in note in the UK is £5. And that's, £5. So you shouldn't be printing 1,000 Naira notes. You should be printing 2,000 Naira, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000.
Well, I was going to get to that. I was going to get to that because you wrote a piece in March. Yes. You wrote a piece in March where you addressed that, and you made a case for the federal government to actually introduce 2,000 Naira, 5,000 Naira, 10,000 and 20,000 Naira notes. So why exactly did you make that call, and what has been the level of acceptability of that advocacy?
If your printing capacity is less than 500 million notes, you should raise the value. If you want to pay somebody 100,000 now, will you write 1,000 checks, putting 1,000 Naira on each? If it doesn't make sense for you to do that, it doesn't make sense for the central bank to be printing a maximum denomination that when the Naira was introduced in 1973, the highest denomination was $15. 10 Naira was $15. We introduced the 20 Naira notes. It was $30 upon introduction. The people who designed the Naira never envisaged the time where the highest denomination will be $1. So central bank should do the sensible thing. If you are printing reasonable values on notes with your 500 million printing capacity, it will go around the country. I don't need to count 50 pieces of notes just to pay for fuel, or count 50 pieces of notes just to pay for a bag of rice, which is what we are doing. Is a waste of time. And you are now charging people for processing cash in the banks. It's very wrong. So basically, let's face it, that currency denominations must speak to retail items. All the notes, all the coins that we have now has been demonetized, not officially, but they're not relevant to any retail item anymore. Even sweets are sold as so many, for 10 Naira or so many for 100 Naira.
So if within 50 years, Dr. Teriba, if within 50 years, so much has happened to the Nigerian currency, and now you are making a case for new notes with higher face value, what is the guarantee that in the next few years, down the line, we wouldn't be experiencing the same, and then we might have to just print something, a note that is carrying about 50,000 or higher than that? We didn't invent currency notes. This is something we learned from other parts of the world. In countries, in Europe, in the US, you have the $1,000 note.
It's just not in circulation. You have the 5,000 pound note. It's just not in circulation. So you should, when they created it in 1973, it should have been a template, that goes up to 10,000. That, imagine, and you should just be, moving it up. If inflation or exchange rate improves, you move back. We've seen 500 note was introduced in Europe at inception. They phased it out. They've withdrawn it from circulation because it's unreasonable, to hold it for any retail transaction. So they are back to 100 euro, just like $100. So it's a flexible thing. If you have outgrown your clothes, you don't debate, okay, what happens if I grow it in future? You cut your clothes according to the current size that you are. If you lose weight, you trim again. If you gain more weight, you sew new ones. So that's it. I mean, money is like a pool, it's a measuring rod of value. And it must be reasonably longer than any conceivable retail value. So we are failing, to manage the currency. Other countries are doing better than us. Japan has a $50 equivalent yen note. Korea has a $40 equivalent yen note. We are saying people should explore alternatives. Are we going to overtake or catch up with Japan in electronic payments? Yes, they don't neglect the efficiency of their currency management. What do you have a currency management department in the central bank for? If they're failing to manage currency, they're awarding contracts to print worthless notes, wasting Nigeria's money. So if you want it to be money, shut down the currency operations department. You can't have a currency operations department headed by a director that cannot manage currency. It's an insult, on Nigeria. And that's how they mismanage the currency design. And I wrote this piece in March, say yes, CBN has suspended it, but December will come. And ahead of December, we should have done these suggestions, not wait until now.